Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Flying Cat Marketing interview series. Today I'm super excited to have Nick Bennett on, who is the Director of Evangelism at Alyce, a B2B gifting company, and also the host of Rep Your Brand, which is a podcast for B2B marketers who are looking to build their personal brand. Today we're going to be talking about doing ABM without an expensive tech stack and what it means to get started. Hey Nick, how's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on. We've been trying to get you on for a while, so I'm glad that we're finally recording today. So tell me, we're talking today about ABM. I know you just now have become Director of Evangelism, so another time we're going to have to talk about evangelism as well. But today we're talking about ABM. So before we get into it, can you tell me, what does ABM really mean to you? Account-based marketing, of course. What does it really mean to you, and how does that differ from the common understanding of what it might be?
Yeah, I think it's such a buzzword, and so what we call it internally is actually just targeted marketing, because at its core, that's really what it is. And some people will debate me on this, which is fine. I love those questions, but you're just doing targeted marketing to a subset of accounts that you deem are the accounts that you want to win, whether that's 50 accounts, 200, 500, 2,000, whatever. You can tier them, but you have your one-to-one approach, your one-to-few, and your one-to-many. And for us, we had it in 3 different buckets. So our one-to-one accounts were very much, it was probably about 50 accounts that is like that tier 1, like these are the enterprise accounts that we must win. Tier 2 was more of that one to few-ish. It was more of our named accounts where we had a good amount of understanding about them. They fit our exact ICP. We were investing not as much money as the one-to-one, but still a decent amount of money. And then our tier 3 was really what we call our serviceable addressable market. So everything else in reality that is considered a marketing qualified account. We use 6sense from a intent platform, but we basically base our MQA model off of what they are using from a 6QA. And then we kind of base that third level on that, which was more of just the air cover, the evergreen ads that are running in the background that you're hoping to push people inbound.
So how is that different from what people might think ABM means?
In reality, I think it's all the same. It's just, I think that people just like to get hung up on the terminology. Like, you can call it ABM, you can call it outbound marketing, targeted marketing, whatever you want to call it. It's still at the same, of its core, like it's the same concept. And we did initially call it ABM, and I know people are calling it ABX and ABE and ABS, always be selling. Like, there's so many different things that people are using, but if the strategy of what you're trying to do isn't being bought in from the top down, then it's not going to be successful no matter what. Like, people say, oh, I'm doing ABM. Great. Is your CRO bought into it? Is your CMO or VP of marketing bought into it? What is that alignment? What do those KPIs and metrics look like? What does the list building exercise look like? So many people just say, I'm doing ABM, and by ABM, they mean they're inviting people from target accounts to events. That's their whole strategy. And I join 7 to 10 sales calls a week where I'm talking to people like me. They're saying, oh, I want to use gifting for ABM. And the first question I ask, what does ABM mean to you? And I get 30 different answers of like, oh, we just want to invite people to events, or we want to accelerate deals. Like, ABM is a full funnel strategy, but people put it into different buckets where, all right, I only focus on top of funnel, or I only focus on acceleration, or I really, what you should do is focus across the entire buyer's journey.
Okay, so it's actually just a model of how you're approaching the accounts that you want to close.
Yeah. Yep,
so
exactly.
You've said frequently on LinkedIn that you don't care about measuring leads. What are you measuring instead, and why?
Yeah, so we measure the marketing qualified accounts, and for us, we have, say for this tier 1, you have 50 accounts. We've already determined that these 50 accounts, based on a criteria of 7 different things, it's, can we help these accounts today? We would hate to sign an account that's going to churn in a year because our product isn't at a standpoint that can support what they're looking to do. Is it a enterprise logo that, looks good? And let's be honest, a lot of these enterprise accounts, they use dark social, word of mouth, whatever you want to call it, to see what other companies that are similar to them that are also using platforms. So that's a big piece of it. They have to be a named account. We run off of a named account model. We don't run off of like territory-based planning or anything like that currently. And so that's a big piece of it. And then it's kind of focusing on, what stage are they in the funnel? We only focus on decision or purchase stage. So like later stage accounts. And when they hit that decision or purchase, they become a marketing qualified account. So they have shown enough intent that we know about them. And then it's doing all of the research. We do these things called blueprints. And so for each of our accounts that we're trying to target, myself, and we have a few others that are now involved in marketing, but like the marketing team, sales leadership, whoever that AE is, the BDR, our RevOps person, we all get together and we try to basically find any digital breadcrumbs that's out there about these accounts. And we just document it all. And we have a blueprint for every single account. And so we know exactly what type of messaging to use. We know who's our internal stakeholders and what that buying committee looks like. We know what they care about, what makes them a human outside of their 9 to 5, because a big part of what we do from a gifting perspective is understanding people in their 5 to 9. Are you passionate about sports or cooking or knitting or whatever it is? Like, we want to focus our gifting around that to make it more personalized. We want to focus we call these 5 to 9 events. We want to make our events more appealing to that. We want to make it family friendly if that's something that's also important to you. And so we have all these things that play together. And so we had a good amount of knowledge based on that. And so for us, we have these accounts. We know enough of who our persona is that we typically go after. It's field marketers, ABM, demand gen events. And so it's up to the BDR and the AE to go supplement that account with the correct contacts within that.
How are you finding out this 5 to 9 information about their personal lives?
Yeah, so fortunately, it's a good thing about our product. It's what we have. We actually have a human research team that does research on prospects. So if I do this, I show this demo all the time of like me, where like I submit myself for research. It will come back that I'm a parent, that I have a family. It will show me my LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. If I have a Pinterest, if I have a blog website, it will extract all of that information and it will put it into like a single source within Alyce that we're able to see. So if we want to do an event around golf, for example, we can see, all right, great, there's declared data as far as what's important to people and what they care about. And also, if we've sent them multiple gifts, we can say, all right, I sent you a dog bowl, for example. You decided you didn't want that dog bowl. You exchanged it for golf clubs randomly. So now we know that maybe you don't have a dog, or maybe something happened, but you do enjoy golf. And so you learn additional insights about your key accounts.
Okay. So let's go back to actually the marketing qualified accounts. You said that you only care about those that are at the decision or the buying stage. But before that, you said that actually you care about the whole funnel. So can you just clarify what you mean there?
Yeah, so when it hits a decision of purchase from the sixth sense perspective, from like an intent perspective, that's when it will trigger being a marketing qualified account, which is where it would fall under tier 1 or tier 2. The other stages, sixth sense has 4 stages. So awareness, consideration, or early 2. For that, we're not ignoring those people, but they're so early on in their journey, we're more supplementing it with the digital aspect in the nurture streams, because they're still in their learning phase. Even if we tried to pitch them, they're probably another 6 to 8 months away from even considering or being at a point.
Okay, gotcha. So you recently posted on LinkedIn about a way that companies can better divide their funnels if they're unable to abandon the MQL approach, or if they're just not ready to do that yet. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's something, and so we're exploring this now, because I think there is a way that you could split it that makes sense, where, I'm not saying marketing should just push MQLs, because I don't think that's like the right thing to do, but there's people that directly ask to be contacted. So these are your high intent leads. So like your hand raisers, like the demo requests or contact sales or whatever. And then you have your scored leads, so your traditional MQLs. And so when I think of MQLs, I think of like lead capture forms, like content downloads, if gated, which is a whole nother story because I don't believe in gated content. We actually don't gate any of our content. And that contact is basically passed to sales when a specific lead is reached. Now, I think if you're going to measure what it looks like when you kind of divide your lead funnel, for the ones that directly ask to be contacted, there's going to be a lower volume because it's more targeted. However, there's going to be a higher conversion rate to pipeline to close one because these are more of the high intent. Whereas like your MQLs, it's higher volume, which is great. People could pump the MQL number, but they're a lower conversion rate from that pipeline to close one. And so it just depends what's important to you and what's your business model. Because if you're looking to do ABM and you're more of a transactional type of company, like I don't know if it would be the best bet. And I'm saying like transactional as far as like, you know, say your ACV is like $1,500 or like even $5,000. Like I think in my past, like the cutoff for what is considered like worthy from ABM has been like 20,000 in ACV. And so you can then break it down into two different buckets. So you have your demand gen MQL, which is like, all right, you can back into like how many MQLs are needed, what's your MQL op rate, how many qualified ops are created. And if you know your win rate and your average ACV deal, you can back into these numbers. And then on the outbound side is more of that traditional account-based MQA model.
Yeah, makes sense. Why do you think that companies are so attached to the MQL model, even though it's been years now that it's been shown to be broken?
I think it's just they haven't got with the times. I'm not saying that you should completely abandon MQLs. Like if it's a thing, I just don't think it should be a leading indicator as far as what you're providing to the sales team, what you're using to paint a picture. Because anyone could come in and say, hey, we drove 10,000 MQLs this month. Sounds fascinating, but out of those 10,000, how many are actually converting? And you'd be surprised at how low like that qualified number is. And I think that I've seen a lot of companies lately still using MQLs, but I've seen it not being a leading indicator, and they're supplementing it with like, all right, great. Are we, increasing the marketable database from a target account perspective? Are we driving MQAs up? And maybe it's something where they just haven't figured a way how to abandon it yet, but I think this dual funnel could supplement both of those.
Yeah. So I know that you aren't working in ABM anymore, and actually now you're in evangelism. I was going to say field marketing, but now different. But can lots of changes, all fun. But can you walk me through how Alyce has your ABM set up? You did give me some examples, but tell me a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's more of the way that we pull it currently is on the targeted marketing. So we're really trying to redefine like what that MQA is. And so for us, it's like, all right, great. We have our sweet spot of the accounts. We're trying to move up market. We have everything that we're focusing on, like that commercial enterprise type of motion. And so for us, like we want to invest in targeted marketing to like do three things: win more deals because we're investing in more relevant experiences to convert, which is a big thing. Like everyone talks about relevant experiences. What does that actually look like? And then reduce churn, which I mean, everyone has churn, I get it, but how can we invest more in best fit customers to support the scale of the organization? And the last piece is just increasing operational efficiencies. So how having a repeatable ABM motion will actually improve your CAC. And I think that's somewhat of a piece that goes I don't want to say unnoticed a little bit, but it's the operational efficiencies piece is sometimes undervalued.
Yeah, so you're saying that actually setting up an ABM process, it's helping CAC because Tell me.
Because so like we have a 3-step approach. So like the first step is like understanding the insights. So enabling sales to better understand the attributes and insights of MQAs. Great, we understand the insights. How can we tailor specific plays to those insights? So curate content and copy for sales to kind of create more relevant outbound experiences. And then the last piece is, how do you action those insights? So now that you're seeing, okay, I understand the channels to reach my buyers, where they are, how can I deploy specific plays in that? And for us, it's more of somewhat of a surround sound or amplification type of model. Like we know the channels that work well for us. Events is a big driver of it, honestly. Events have always been a big driver of it, but digital is huge. Content is huge. And really just understanding the evangelism piece and like speaking to customers and prospects, getting advocates to have that social proof on your behalf. And being someone that's bought gifting platforms for the last 6 years, 7 years maybe, I am like the ICP. I understand the pain point that these marketers are looking to solve, because I've looked to solve the same for the last 9 or 10 years.
So when you talk about it, it's funny because you're talking about operational efficiency and making it scalable, but it also sounds like you're doing a very custom thing for every account that you're trying to target. Obviously, that's what it is. It's targeted marketing, but getting so granular to the point where you're like, okay, this guy likes golf, so I'm going to organize a golf event just to try to get this one account. There's probably some information that I'm missing, but it sounds like the opposite of operational efficiency.
Yeah, so we don't invest as much into the one-to-one anymore. For us, it's more of like that one-to-few and one-to-many. When I launched this a year ago, I was really only focused on that one-to-one. So out of the 50 accounts, I was able to open, from a pipeline perspective, about 60% of those in a quarter and a half. Very much one-to-one. I built personalized landing pages for each of them. We're now trying to scale it a little bit further. So it's more of the grouping like accounts together and then more of that one-to-many. But we're trying to figure out the MQA and like the best definition of it, so that we can make sure that sales is successful, so that they understand how to actually action this. Mm-hmm. How does sales and marketing actually work together? And then what does that list look like? And so we're going through, I guess, a redefining piece of it right now that we started kicking off in January of this year. That is completely different than when I did it last year.
Gotcha. Because when you're saying you created individual landing pages, that was for sales to use, or you distributed that somehow through digital?
So a little bit of both. So sales, the BDR team and the AE was using it, but I was also spinning up, custom HTML5 ads for these accounts that I was pushing over from 6 Sense. So I was driving them to their specific landing page. And like I didn't create all 50 landing pages because I was doing it through WordPress one by one, and it was like so cumbersome to be able to do it, tailor it to them, create videos. And so I ended up doing about 30 landing pages, which took me way longer than I care to admit.
Okay, so you create these 30 landing pages, and then you run ads targeting only people from that one account to this landing page.
Exactly, with specific messaging, because we know that their pain point is they're trying to drive MQL. So how can you use gifting at the top of the funnel to book net new meetings? Or maybe they care about churn. And so it's like, all right, great, we're going to help with churn prevention. There's actually 17 different unique touch points where you can use gifting across the entire buyer's journey.
So did you put the actual name of the brand of the account you were trying to target on there?
Yep. Yeah. I put their logo. We created a video that was like hyper personalized to like calling people out by name that we knew within those accounts. And it could have been a lot better if I had a tool that could help me with that. But I mean, first doing it myself, I felt like it did pretty good.
And you knew already when you're running these ads that they're in a time that they're going to make this kind of decision.
Yeah, because I could sync all of that over from 6 Sense, so I could see exactly, all right, great, I'm going to create a segment of these tier 1 accounts. I know that they're in the decision to purchase stage. I know exactly who's engaging with our stuff within those accounts, what websites they're clicking, what content they're reading. And so I could tailor that experience more to them. But I get like, listen, it's if you're not using like a tool or a product, like it can definitely take a while. If you don't have the bandwidth or resources, like at the time, we were only like a 5-person marketing team. So we were definitely bootstrapped.
Yeah, that sounds pretty crazy. So these people are already aware of Alyce then.
Yeah. And that's why we wanted to make sure that we went after the accounts that knew who we were. And maybe it's because they're using a competitor of ours, or maybe because we've talked to them before, but we have enough intel that we know that they're starting to look at it again. I would say probably 80 to 85% were using a competitor of ours. And we knew that with our product features, we could easily win that account. And so we just doubled down on it.
Is that what that information is, what you use to build your lists, or are you also building lists of accounts that maybe have not heard of you?
So when we originally did it on the one-to-one, it was only ones that did hear about us. Yeah.
Okay. And now?
So now it's actually, it's a mixture of both. I don't know what the percentage is between the two of them, but it's definitely a mixture of both right now.
Cool. And now that you're doing one-to-many, what do those landing pages look like? Since you can't really call out brands and names anymore.
We're not using the landing pages anymore, unfortunately. Yeah, I would say the big driver that we're doing right now is a mixture of paid, search, events, and more so just like the personalization of myself reaching out. And like when I reach out to another marketer and I say, hey, let's sit down and brainstorm for 30 minutes and use me as like a resource. I know for a fact that none of our competitors are doing that. Yeah. And so we've been able to win a ton of deals just from doing that.
Okay, cool. And search, you mean paid search, or are you doing SEO?
So we paid search, but we actually did just hire a content and SEO person probably about 2 months ago who's ramping up right now. He comes from a fantastic background of doing content and SEO actually at Nextiva. So he worked for Gaetano, and yeah, he's honestly been crushing it so far.
Awesome. And is the SEO that he's doing, that's playing into the ABM strategy as well?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Do you have insights on how that's going to work?
I don't, not as much anymore. I've been removed from it probably since from like the beginning of the year. Like my big focus before moving into this evangelism role was like really the acceleration of opportunities. So like we would open them through targeted marketing. I would only focus once it hit qualified pipeline. How can I accelerate that to close one? And from probably October of last year to this week, that's been the majority of my focus.
Gotcha. Cool. Before we wrap up, do you want to tell me a little bit about your new evangelism role?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like it's something that I've already kind of been doing, but it's more of being that subject matter expert. Like I mentioned, like I have purchased gifting platforms. I've purchased Alyce before. I've purchased competitors. I've seen demos of every platform that's out there. And so working with marketers like myself on calls, both prospect and customer calls, making sure that we're utilizing best practices, make sure that any speaking events or community things, brand loyalty, you're building all of that. And so that's going to be a big focus. I'm actually mapping out what that looks like right now. I kind of wrote a job description for myself the other day, but it's going to be a mixture of kind of like that evangelizing for the product, but also a little bit of the customer marketing piece, like building out a customer advisory board, working to make sure that we highlight customers and bring them to life so that they'll advocate on our behalf. And I feel like the two kind of intertwine really nicely.
Love it. All right, Nick, so where's the best place for people to connect with you if they want to learn more about this? I know you're on TikTok now.
Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I spend most of my time. However, if you do want to follow me on TikTok, feel free. I've been having a lot of fun over there. But shoot me a DM on LinkedIn. I actually reply to all messages unless you pitch slap me, so don't do that. But yeah, I'd love to talk to anyone.
Excellent. This has been a lot of fun, a lot of value. Thank you so much for your time. For whoever is listening to or watching this episode, if you did find value, connect with Nick on LinkedIn, follow him on TikTok, leave a comment, let us know that you watched it, and share it with a friend or colleague that might find it useful. Thank you again, Nick, for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fantastic.
Absolutely. See you next time.